So one of the things I mentioned about exposure was the ISO. And the ISO is the sensitivity of the sensor. So when there's a lot of light, you can have it on a low sensitivity. And if it's dark, low light, you might need it on a high sensitivity. So why wouldn't you have it on a high sensitivity all the time? Well, you might be looking for a particular shutter speed or aperture, but that's for another discussion. However, the higher the sensitivity, the more noise or grain you get in it as well. So the image isn't quite as clear. On this camera, I have an ISO at 100. That's where it starts. So it's a nice clean image with no noise in it, or basically no noise in it. But I can push it all the way up. I often use it at 3200. But if you looked really closely, you would see that there's a tiny bit of noise in there, or grain. I like to think of it as grain, which we used to have on film. And again, on film, the higher the ISO or ASA, the grainier it was. So let's take a look at the effect it has when I increase the ISO by looking at what happens when I point it at these cameras and push it up. So here I am on ISO 100. It's a nice clean image. It's a little bit dark, but actually I could make that a bit brighter later. But let's just see what happens when I increase the ISO. So I'm going to start doing that. That's going up to 200. You can see it's all getting a lot brighter here. Just going to maybe lower that. But as I increase it, what's happening is I'm now up to 1000 ISO. Let me just switch to ISO. Let me just change my aperture here, because there's just way too much light now just hitting that. Let's just go to there. But now just keep watching what happens. I'm going to ISO again. I'm going to increase it 1200, 1600. Let's go way, way up. Right, so here I am at 8000, 10,000. Let me just adjust the aperture again so you can see what it looks like. And you'll see that the image itself is actually not that clean. It's getting grainy. So again, I'm pushing it up again, and you'll see that actually it's not a very sharp image. It's got very grainy. There's a lot of noise in the image, and you'll really need to look out for that. And it's hard to see on the screens on these cameras. It's only when you get back, put it onto the computer, or on a monitor, you might actually notice this. So as you can see, the ISO makes a really big difference. The lower the ISO, the cleaner the image is. You can blow it up bigger if you happen to have it on screen, or if you're printing, it will look better. But there are times where you don't get a choice. A lot of events that I cover, you don't get a choice really. The lighting's quite dark, and for that you would need a higher ISO. What you should do is see just how much it looks on your camera. So see what is a really acceptable ISO that you can use. Some cameras, it might be 800 before it starts getting really grainy, perhaps 1600, 3200 on this camera, maybe 6400 I could get away with. So it all depends on the camera. Full frame sensors like on this one do allow more light in, and therefore they have better resolution when it comes to the higher ISOs. So something you might need to try it and experiment with before you actually go out and try it.